Hey everyone, and welcome to another edition of Impactful Teamwork. So, this episode is going to be slightly different because I'm recording this from Thailand, where I'm away on vacation. And I'm doing this because I wanted to share with you some really important lessons that I'm taking away this week that I think will be super valuable to you right now. So, if you check out some of the episodes from this time last year, you will have heard me talk about the importance of rest and relaxation and re energizing yourself at this time of year. Nature understands the importance of stopping and pausing. And that's why in the winter season, all the plants die down. And they do that in order to conserve energy so that they can come into the spring season and fully bloom. I decided, as some of you might know, to come to Thailand as a little bit of a whim, a last minute. Those of you that follow me on LinkedIn and on Facebook will know that unfortunately I lost one of the co founders of my business, Coach Charlie, just about 2 weeks ago. And his death was a big shock to me because it was very unexpected. We went in for what I thought was an emergency dental procedure to remove one of his teeth. And unfortunately, when we did some x rays, the dentist discovered that he'd broken his jaw and he could no longer eat properly. And there was no real cure for fixing his jaw, particularly as we also discovered he had a bone tumor as well in the jaw. So that was a bit of a shock. And on the back of that, we also had, unfortunately, the death of Coach Toby earlier on in the year in March. And his was through old age. But Coach Toby knew more about me, I think, than my parents. I'd spent more years with him than I had with them. So I've realized that 2025 has been a pretty tough year for me. And I was really struggling with a lot of grief and sadness because I realized I hadn't processed any of these events. And what I've realized out here in Thailand is that there was actually a lot more going on than even that. My mum had passed away in 2020, and I'd been strong for my dad to help him through that. And then my dad very unexpectedly passed away in 2023. And then I had to support my partner through some pretty bad depression as a result of a really toxic workplace he was working in and bullying he was experiencing. And God, I realized that I'd just been carrying so much. And I don't know if any of you have experienced this, but when we're in the space, we just don't see it. If in business, it's like we're blinkered. We just see what's directly in front of us. And it's really taken me coming away here to Thailand, to a brand new environment, to get a completely different perspective on things. So I've really come here to rest and restore and rejuvenate and even reinvent. And I'll share with you a little bit about reinvention in a moment. But it's proving to be a really cathartic experience. And I think it's really important when we're thinking about restoration and restoring our energy levels. We need to remember that we need to restore our energy levels on many different levels. In my book, Unbridled Success, I talk about this, the need to restore energy, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. That is really what I'm doing here. I'm really dosing or double dosing on all of those things at the same time. Because our health is our wealth, right? And as business owners, it's so important that we look after our health. But many of us just get subsumed into the day-to-day mania of what's going on. that we just don't take time to look after ourselves. I know I've been really guilty of this. And since my dad passed away, I've put on 10 kg. My health has just massively deteriorated. On the outside, I was looking fine, but in the inside, I wasn't. I'd become massively addicted to sugar to the point that every afternoon, probably about 3 o'clock, you'd find me actually leaving my house, driving down to my local co-op store to buy bars of chocolate. And then I wonder why I'm putting on weight. No big surprise there, right? So I knew that if I was to break these patterns, I needed to do something quite radical and quite different. I'd been trying back in the UK to go on some better eating programs, and nothing was working for me. As I said, I needed something radical for me to change. If you know anything about me, you'll know that when I do something and decide to do something, I don't do it half-assed, right? I go full in. I think about the time that when I was on my sabbatical, I decided all of a sudden that the best way to get present in life and really live in the now was to go and train to be a safari guide and live in the bush for 3 or 4 months. So I don't tend to do things by halves, and I haven't this time. So one of the great things about coming out here to Thailand is that I've come to do a detox. And as I said, it's a detox mind, body, and spirit, really. So this isn't something that's new to me. I have done these before. But looking back on it, it's probably about 15 years ago. The last time I did one of these detoxes was when I was working in the corporate world. And funny story about how I even discovered these, right? I had actually been on an overland trip from Cape to Vic Falls. And so I'd spent the best part of nearly a month actually traveling up from Cape Town through Namibia into Botswana and then Zambia. And I was absolutely taken by all of the wildlife. And this is where my real interest in nature started. And it's also there that I really started learning about how the plants, the shrubs, could be used as medicines. And the Bushmen are just so knowledgeable about which shrubs, bushes, and berries to eat at the right time in order to solve medical problems. So I came back from that trip feeling really grounded and in the moment. And I remember sitting in a hairdresser and reading Glamour magazine of all things. And in there was this small article, it wasn't very big, about this detox spa in Koh Samui in Thailand, where all the celebrities went. And it particularly talked about Kim Wilde and her experience there. So when I got home, I Googled it and I discovered actually this wasn't a super luxurious spa at all. This was a very affordable spa retreat where you went and you fasted for a period of time and took a number of herbs and natural medicines in order to effectively clear out your system, for want of a better word. And I did that and I loved it. And then for about 4 or 5 years, I used to go every single Christmas to this spa to detox because it was the most amazing thing to be able to start the new year, a new invigorated version of myself. So after everything that happened with Coach Charlie, I just made the decision on a whim to book it to come out here. Now, I'm not at the same spa that I had been to previously because that appears to have shut down. I'm now on the north shores of Koh Samui at somewhere called Health Resort Samui. An amazing Dr. Manta looking after us. It's a very small resort. In fact, at the moment, there's only 4 other guests here with me. So it's really quiet and really peaceful. And it's giving me a lot of time to reflect on what's going on. And I've had some amazing conversations as well while I've been here with some of the other guests, and particularly with a 70-year-old man called Harry. And Harry is just retired. He was in the hospitality profession like me, so we've been having some great conversations about that. We were just talking about when you retire, what it's like. And he gave me a lovely reframe. He said, retirement for him is all about rewiring because when we step away from our business life, many people struggle with their identity and what they're going to do. And we need to rewire our neurons to realize that there's other things that we can do. And just because we've stepped away from business, it's not that we're no longer valuable. We can still make an amazing contribution to society. And so Harry and I have been talking a lot about identity, actually. And I had a really big epiphany talking to him because what I realized was when I left my corporate role, my whole identity left. When I worked at Deloitte, I had created that business unit from concept, idea on piece of paper to the global market leader. And I was known as Miss Hotel Benchmark. That's what I did. We benchmarked hotel performance around the world. And so when that role was made redundant as a result of me selling the business for them, my whole identity just went with it. And what I've realized this week is that I have really been searching for my identity for pretty much the last 15 years. And that's been a big shock to me, if I'm honest. But it makes so much sense. It's given me actually so much clarity. So I'm really excited because I'm only at the end of week one. What will emerge by the end of week two? Who knows? What Julia will crystallize as the butterfly out of me, I don't know. But what I do know to be true is that all of us as business leaders need to take time out. And I know many of you always say, I'm too busy, I can't go on vacation. But it's so important. And we know, particularly in the US, our US colleagues only get 2 weeks vacation a year. And as we're coming to the Christmas season, some of you might be saying, oh, Julia, I've got 2 weeks off at Christmas. Now, I bet those 2 weeks are full of family and friends and entertaining. Where is the time for you? Where is the time for you just to sit with yourself and reflect on life, on what you really want? Because I think that's the challenge for many of us. If I look back over the last 5 years, all of my vacations were with my partner. I was doing what he wanted to do. Did I enjoy them? Absolutely, yes. But I didn't get any time really for me and for me to process, for me to spend time with me and figure out what I wanted. So this is my invitation to you, ladies and gentlemen, is to really carve out some time for you. Now, I know I've been extreme, 2 weeks, you might not have that amount of time, but even if it's just a few hours a week, what is the time that you're setting aside for you with no distractions to really reflect on your week, your month, your year, on what you need to do to make it better? And also really spend some time thinking about what re-energizes you and what type of energy do you need. So I'm really transparent. I'm really clear now. I need all 4 areas: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual rewiring right now. And that's what I'm getting here, being in a different environment and making that possible. Those are just some thoughts today. I know this is a pretty raw episode for me to share, but I just felt this was a message that everyone needed to hear right now. Because if you don't look after yourself, you can't look after your team members. You can't look after your customers. You can't look after your suppliers. You can't look after the other stakeholders in your business. And for me, I know when I go back, bracken on this on my 2 little ponies, they're going to need me more than ever. And I'm really going to have to step up as a leader for them. They looked to Toby and Charlie their entire life for direction. And the ponies joined my herd at 9 months old. Toby and Charlie were like their parents. So they're going to need me to do that for them now. So where are you spending time to put your own oxygen mask on so that you have the health and vitality in order to support your team, your customers, and your other stakeholders in the business? Even your family needs you to be the best version that you can be. As I said, that's my invitation to you this week. Carve out time for rest and relaxation so that you can restore and refocus, because the benefits are immense. I have so much more clarity, so much more energy, so much more focus than I had when I arrived. And plus, as a bonus, I'm also losing a few kilos along the way, which really helped. I hope you found this interesting. I'd really love to hear your thoughts on what you're going to do to improve your health and well-being by spending time just out for you. So take care, everyone, and I'll catch you soon. Bye-bye.